Coming out is probably one of the hardest things an LGBT plus person has to go through in their life. It's ridiculous that everyone is assumed straight and you have to say otherwise. But anyway, here's my story of and my advice for coming out. My first step would be to think of school and home in two separate spheres. Everyone wants stability in both of these, but everyone needs stability in at least one of these. So I wouldn't recommend coming out to your parents and your school friends at the same time. If you have a friend that's outside school that has got nothing to do with your school friends and nothing to do with your family, it's really useful because basically you can talk to them and you'll have no fear of it affecting the sort of two principal parts of your life in any way. And this is what happened for me. I found it a very liberating experience to talk to someone like that. They were incredibly accepting of me and it gave me the courage to come out to my closest school friends. If closest school friends is pretty much the only option you've got, then I would recommend maybe telling 2 or 3 really close friends to you that you can trust. You know they won't spill your secret. It might be advantageous to try and find someone that's maybe openly bi or gay a few years above you so you can talk about it and find out their experiences and just, have someone that might look out for you if need be. Obviously not in the case of family, but in general, school friends tend to be quite accepting of sexuality. You're young, you're experimenting, things are different, and hopefully if you don't live a really maybe socially conservative part of the country, it will be a nice experience, a very liberating experience for you to tell these few friends in school. However, I must stress that once you tell around 2 or 3 people in school, it comes a point where you kind of cross a line. It's like when you're in an amusement park and you're kind of going up the roller coaster and reach this peak. And for me, this peak level was when I had told a fair few people, and the chances are that at least one of them had told their brother or their sister or their friend, and that had got to a friend of a friend. You get the picture. And this is where coming out can kind of spread like wildfire, because your closest friends tell your closer friends, and then your closer friends let it slip to just anyone in the year, and then it just kind of spreads throughout the year. And obviously this is when you have to consider the relationship between your school friends, their parents, and your parents. If you're in a situation where your friends' parents and your parents are really chummy, you have to think, can I trust these people? And if it has got out, is it time to tell my parents before they find out via someone else? Because if they find out via someone else apart from you, it could be a bit of a messy experience, and it would be so much nicer to hear it from you. Personally, what happened for me is that I told around 4 or 5 close friends in school, and they told some of my closer friends, and then one of my closer friends decided to tell maybe a 5th or the 6th of the year that we're on a school trip at the time that I was gay. And then after that, basically, everyone knew. It just spread really quickly. And yeah, initially it was a bit uncomfortable because I got like text messages and picture messages of like guys kissing and people saying, oh, we know your dark secret. And it's just a bit like, ugh, I started getting worried. And then when I came back to school, I was kind of paranoid wherever I looked. I thought that each time I saw a new group, they would be like talking about me or thinking about me. And I was really paranoid about the whole thing. But actually, apart from that little blip of an incident, overall, pretty much nothing happened. It was a very strange experience because up until then in my life, like I had gone through a lot of bullying, verbal, physical, even in primary school by teachers because, I was feminine or just because I was in like the lowest social position. Ah, geeks for the win. But yeah, it was really strange because when I actually came out, I didn't really get any stick for it at all. And I'm not saying that this is going to be the case for everyone. I know that there are lots of people in really conservative areas and, it's actually the bullying is going to start after they come out. But you would be surprised at the amount of bullying that goes on through perception of femininity, perception of being gay. And when you actually come out, they're like, whoa, actually this is something serious and this could actually cause someone real pain if we make fun of them. Or they're just scared that they'll be seen as homophobic by other people. Not exactly a good reason for not bullying someone, but, it's a reason that will stop them bullying you. But I think the way I came out was quite organic. It wasn't a very abrupt process. I know that when I went to my second school, I met some gay people who had kind of just, they were doing a presentation in class, and mid-presentation they just turned around to the class and was like, I'm gay. And they just carried on. And it's all kind of like, whoa, it's an understandable reaction because, you've been kind of keeping this secret in for all this time and it just needs to come out. But if you do it in a much more organic process and you talk to people face to face, which I think is really important because after you tell someone something so personal, I think it's really important to kind of talk about it, continue a relationship as normal, kind of clear up any misunderstandings. Whereas if you kind of just go, bam, I'm gay, everyone kind of goes, whoa, I don't really know what to do about this or how to approach you, how to react to it. But anyway, now onto the larger question of family and parents. If your parents are fairly liberal or at least educated in LGBT plus related issues, this might be a fairly painless exercise. I would approach them with something like, I've been thinking about my sexuality for a long time, and I'm sure that I'm not going through a phase, and this is how I feel about myself. For example, I think I'm gay, I think I'm bi, I think I'm lesbian, or I'm not too sure about labels at the moment, but I'm pretty sure I'm attracted to this, this, and this, or this gender. This is how I feel about my gender. I personally was very lucky with my parents that there was no real issue. They just smiled and said, "Oh, I hope you didn't have to go through a lot." And it was just fine, and it carried on as normal, and we just talk about it a bit more every day, and I was very lucky for that. I think if your parents aren't so liberal, then you have to maybe do some research, watch some videos, and find out some ideas about things like sexuality being a phase, get ready for some responses for that and how you feel. Perhaps the idea they might say, "Oh, what have I done wrong? How have I raised you incorrectly?" But just hammering the fact that famous academic Lady Gaga says, you were born this way, this is how you are. Another classic is like, "Oh, I wanted you to grow up and marry a man or a woman and have babies, and I want grandchildren, blah, blah, blah." And you can be like, well, no, we don't live in a society where that can't happen anymore. There's surrogacy, adoption, and actually, it's my choice if I want to have children, not your choice, okay? You didn't raise me so I could have children, okay? My own life. But if you do want to have children, that's fine, obviously. I think if you've got a non-accepting family member or friend, I think the most important thing is just to give them time for them to think about it, time for them to research it, time for you to think of ways of how you might get them to come round to your sexuality. And I know at the time you think there is no way that your parents are going to accept your sexuality. But believe me, in many cases they will come round to the idea, I promise. The last thing I want to talk about is coming out in extreme instances of homophobia in the family due to religious or conservative values. And I'm only talking about extreme cases here. You have to check whether there are provisions in your area for someone who might become homeless because they're LGBT. Are there any organisations that will house you? Are there any organisations, better still, that will try and reunite you with your parents? There are actually many in London and Paris that do that. Anyway, hopefully these extreme cases aren't going to be what your situation is. And I hope this video has helped you, at least somehow, in terms of a plan for coming out. And I want to leave with the idea that no matter how bad the situation is, and I know it's going to be, there's going to be a huge range of situations from people who are going to have it fairly easy, and people who are going to have it really hard. Just remember that when you do come out, the only way is up. After the initial reaction and steps taken after you come out, it will get better. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. So yeah, I'm just going to swim away now, my stream.